So now I had to go after the big one, Google, which is owned by Viacom. Remember Viacom, the one where its logo says "I am" backwards, referring to "I am, I think, therefore I exist." Well, that's a little bit different name, Google. But I did find it, and I did make the connection. It took me a little bit, but not too long, because you have to break the word down. See, there's an extra O in there. So it's Gog L. Now remember the word L, E-L, goes back to the planet Saturn. That's the god Saturn, L. But what is Gog? Well, I had to start thinking in a different direction, because that's not, aside from the biblical Gog and Magog, which may have the same meaning as what I looked up. This, I had to start thinking in computer terms, and what I found is absolutely pretty amazing. So it makes sense. So let's take a look at what, if we look at, instead of Google, take the one O out, and you've got Gog-L. Okay, and let's take a look and see what that is. Here we see the all-seeing eye, which is the South Pole of Saturn. Eyes Gog, global occultic government. Now, isn't that interesting? And then he uses the New World Order within that. So this is Gog, and then you got L. So you got Gog L. Okay, and what do they use? They use the exact same color scheme: red, yellow, blue, green. It's the same thing. It's a time cube. It's from the North Pole of Saturn. It is Saturn. It's a numerical entity. It is like a living mega computer. It is not God. It is not the God, but it is the God of this world. The real creator sits far, far above him. But you'll see when you'll see this logo, you'll understand. So let's take a look. And I'll just do a breakdown of the word again real quick, and then you can take a look. Here we see the Google cube. Interesting. Time cube. Red, yellow, blue, green. Time cube. This is a computer, folks. And in the middle is G. Some would like to say that means God. It doesn't. It means geometry. And if you go back into the Matrix, you remember that the guy that made the Matrix was the great architect. And what do architects do? They use lines. They create, they build. And that's why the cube, because it's four sides. It does have a top and a bottom, but it's four sides. So it's perfect geometrically. Here again, we see the Google wave. You remember the Viacom? Viacom bought out Google. So you can see there's the same thing from the Viacom logo. It's the exact same thing, folks. Nothing changes here. It's always the same. But it always goes back to the same. It originates from the same place. It's what runs this world. It makes up the reality that you live in. There's no way to get around this. It doesn't change my beliefs in who Jesus was, but it does open my eyes to the fact that there are people that know this, and they've been playing us for years. This is an interesting cover of a book. It's called The Voice. And it, to me, it gives an example of what this thing might look like. Interestingly enough, if you remember the movie The Fantastic Four, do you remember the Silver Surfer? You remember he came down because he came before the Destroyer and he was silver? If there's one part of that movie, if you go back to it, I can't find it to download it. He says the Destroyer is coming and he represents the Destroyer. Well, they immediately, at that scene, they flash to Saturn, and then they flash away from it. So I'm sure this is what is in reference to this. And if you look at the writing underneath The Voice, it alludes to it being some type of a god. I started laughing when I saw this morning. Here's the YouTube logo that came out today. Interesting. That's not representing the planet Earth. That's representing another planet. And I don't think I need to tell you. what planet that is. I'll give you a clue. It ain't Pluto. This is the Skype logo. Many of you use it to talk to your friends, business, whatever, but you never really stop to pay attention, look at it. Can you not see? The S inside represents time. It does not represent Saturn. The S represents the serpent, and the serpent is time. Simple as that. And last but not least, I figured I'd draw a diagram so that you understand how I think this thing works. I think that the planet Saturn is the main computer. The sun, which is photon energy, powers the computer. It sends the information down to the moon. The moon is the communications interface module. Then it sends it down to the Earth through the visual instrumentation and the simulator that you live in, which is the cube. That is how I think this thing works. Now, if I'm wrong, oh well, but I still think it looks pretty cool anyway for a guy that cuts trees. So I really think with the information that I have, with the browsers and all of the other stuff and all the study that I've done, I really do think this is just a real big-ass machine. And that there really truly isn't a creator that's above that. But he's on the outside of the box and we're on the inside. But there is the Son of God. He did come down here. Jesus did come into the machine as a human, and he beat the machine in its own game. And that's why the machine couldn't hold him like it holds you, because Jesus was timeless. Saturn is time. He's not. He's finite. Jesus was infinite. And that's why, but as long as you're here in the flesh, you will be locked into the third dimension, which is ruled by Saturn. So that's it for this bit of information that I have. I hope it gives you some insight to just how bizarre that this is. But I have another bit coming up in a couple of days. Thanks for watching. Once again, I'm not biased either way. People do what they're going to do. I can't stop it. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. Just I want you to open your eyes and see around and look around, and you might surprise yourself.